A man can survive a blade in the dark, but few can withstand an accusation in the light. Why? Because a wound to the flesh is a private matter of recovery, while a wound to your name is a public spectacle of your execution. You have been trained your entire life to defend yourself, to argue your case, to plead for reason. This is a fatal error. Today, we do not teach you to answer the charge. We teach you how to make the accuser build his own gallows. This is the swamp of the idealistic debate. It is where good men, honorable men, go to die. They arrive armed with facts, with logic, with a sincere belief in the fairness of their cause. They face a critic, a subordinate, a rival, who levels a charge. The charge may be trivial or grave, true or false. It does not matter. The moment the charge is made, a trap has been sprung. The idealist, believing his integrity is his shield, steps directly into it. He begins to explain. He justifies his past actions. He presents his reasoning. He lays out a meticulous defense, hoping that the light of his truth will dispel the shadow of the accusation. He does not realize he is in a theater of his own humiliation, and the audience does not care for truth. They care only for the spectacle of strength versus weakness. Every word he speaks in his own defense is a shovel of dirt he throws upon his own authority. Why? Because to defend is to concede that the accusation has merit. To explain is to admit that your judgment is in question. You have accepted the premise of your opponent. You have entered his arena to fight by his rules on his timeline. You have granted a petty critic the status of a judge, and you have willingly placed yourself in the position of the defendant. Your opponent has risked nothing. He has simply voiced a complaint, an act that requires no courage and no intellect. You in turn have risked everything, for you have wagered your reputation on your ability to persuade a man who has no interest in being persuaded. He does not want understanding. He wants leverage. He wants to see you sweat. He wants to watch you bleed your composure, your energy, your power, into the thirsty sand of his manufactured grievance. The idealist calls this process dialogue, or clearing the air. A prince recognizes it for what it is, a slow-motion abdication of power. The more you argue about the past, the less control you have over the future. The very act of engaging in this debate is a strategic blunder from which it is almost impossible to recover, for you are fighting a ghost. You are wrestling with yesterday. And the past, Machiavelli understood, is a territory that can never be conquered. It can only hold you prisoner. The common man exhausts himself trying to rewrite history. The prince concerns himself only with writing what is to come. This brings us to the Machiavellian strategy, the formal abandonment of the past as a field of battle. The prince understands a fundamental and brutal truth of human nature. Men are not governed by reason, but by the perception of power. They do not follow the man with the best explanation. They follow the man who sets the agenda. Therefore, the first duty of the prince is to refuse, under any circumstances, to legitimize the agenda of his critics. He must not debate what was done. He must command what will be done. He achieves this not with a lengthy speech or a complex counter-argument, but with a simple and devastating weapon, a three-word phrase that shatters the foundation of the accuser's power. It is a tool of such profound efficacy that it seems almost too simple. It is a shield that becomes a sword. When faced with the critic, the complainer, the challenger who questions your actions and demands justification, you do not engage. You do not defend. You look at him with a cold and impassive gaze, and you utter the words that change the entire structure of power. What do you propose? This is not a question, it is a command. It is a rejection of the entire premise of the conversation. It declares, without saying it, your opinion of my past actions is irrelevant. The history you are so concerned with is over. Your feelings do not interest me. The only thing that has value in this room, from this moment forward, is a constructive plan for the future. You have identified a problem. Now, solve it, or reveal yourself as nothing more than empty noise. The effect is instantaneous and profound. The entire weight of the interaction, which your opponent had carefully placed on your shoulders, is now lifted and dropped squarely upon his. The spotlight of judgment, which he had aimed at you, now swivels and illuminates him with a blinding glare. You have ceased to be the defendant. You have become the arbiter. He came prepared for a debate, for an argument, for an emotional confrontation. He did not come prepared to lead. He did not come prepared to build. He came to tear down, and you have just handed him a hammer and told him to construct a cathedral. In that moment of silence that follows your question, you are witnessing the visceral transfer of power. You can see the calculation in his eyes. The critic, the accuser, is suddenly forced to transition from the easy, cowardly act of condemnation to the difficult, courageous act of creation. He must now produce a plan. He must consider logistics, resources, consequences. He must risk his own reputation on the viability of his own ideas. You are no longer on trial. His competence is. This is the essence of Machiavellian pragmatism. It is the understanding that power is not a static object to be defended, but a dynamic current to be redirected. The idealist builds a dam to stop the flow of criticism and is inevitably overwhelmed. The prince digs a new channel and forces the river to flow where he wills it. The past is a swamp, the future is high ground. With these three words, you force your enemy out of the mud and onto the hill, a territory that you and you alone command, for the critic's power exists only in the past, a realm of shadows and blame. To rule, you must force all men to face the harsh, unforgiving light of the future. Comment, "The future is mine," if you understand this fundamental shift of power, and subscribe. For in our next lesson, we will forge this phrase into a blade and teach you how to wield it. To understand the devastating impact of our three-word phrase, you must first unlearn everything you have been taught about kindness and conflict. Society teaches you that confrontation is a failure of diplomacy, that the most enlightened path is one of perpetual accommodation. This is a doctrine designed for sheep to keep the flock placid. The prince, however, is a shepherd who must, on occasion, act as a butcher. He knows that certain diseases in the body politic cannot be cured with gentle remedies. They require the blade. And so we arrive at a cornerstone of practical power, a concept that makes the idealist recoil in horror: the surgical use of cruelty. When Machiavelli speaks of cruelty, he is not championing sadism or wanton violence. That is the work of a clumsy tyrant who inspires only hatred and rebellion. The prince's cruelty is of a different nature entirely. It is strategic, impersonal, and in its own brutal way merciful. It is the application of a sharp, immediate pain to prevent a chronic, agonizing decay. A lingering debate, a cycle of accusation and justification, is a form of poorly administered cruelty. It is a slow poison. It infects the morale of your organization, it drains your focus, and it endlessly bleeds your most finite resource: time. Each moment spent defending the past is a moment stolen from building the future. Your critic, whether he knows it or not, is inflicting this slow torture upon your agenda. His complaints are the thousand small cuts that can bring down the most powerful beast. When you respond with, "What do you propose?" you are not engaging in a conversation. You are performing an amputation. It is a swift, clean, and profoundly cruel act. It is cruel because it offers no comfort to the complainer's ego. It does not validate his feelings. It does not dignify his grievance with a debate. It severs his connection to the past and thrusts him into the cold, unforgiving vacuum of responsibility. The momentary shock and discomfort he feels is the necessary pain of the surgeon's knife. It is this shock that halts the spread of the poison of inaction. A prince understands that it is better to be respected for a single decisive act of cruelty that restores order than to be despised for the prolonged weakness of 1,000 concessions that lead to chaos. This is cruelty well used, swift, economical, and aimed not at the man, but at the disorder he represents. You have cut away the disease and, in doing so, have saved the patient. This surgical act does more than simply end a pointless conflict. It clears the ground for a new construction. A wise conqueror, upon seizing a new city, knows he cannot simply rule from the old king's throne. The entire architecture of power, the laws, the loyalties, the institutions, was designed to serve his predecessor. To inhabit it is to be haunted and constrained by the ghost of the old regime. His first task, therefore, is demolition. He must tear down the old structures so that he may build a new edifice, one whose very foundations are loyal to him, A conversation is a territory, a kingdom in miniature with its own rules and power structures. When a critic challenges you, he is attempting to establish his own order. In his kingdom, he is the prosecutor, you are the defendant, and the supreme law is your accountability to him. To argue on his terms is to accept citizenship in his pathetic little empire of blame. What do you propose is not a diplomatic negotiation with this old order. It is an act of political annihilation. With those 3 words, you have razed his kingdom to the ground. You have declared his laws void, and his authority illegitimate. In the rubble of his failed interrogation, you begin your work as the architect of a new state. The first law of your new domain is that all discourse must be forward-looking. The past is a closed book, its verdicts already rendered and irrelevant. The second law is that responsibility is the price of speech. An opinion without a plan is not an opinion, it is a noise, and it will be treated as such. The third and most important law is that value is measured exclusively in constructive proposals. Under this new constitution, the critic has no power. His entire skill set, the weaving of accusations, the exploitation of past grievances, is obsolete. He is an immigrant in a new land whose language he does not speak. To survive in your new order, he must learn to think like you. He must learn to build. You are, in effect, re-educating everyone you interact with. You are teaching them that the path to your attention and respect is not paved with complaints, but with well-conceived plans. This transforms your relationship with everyone, from your subordinates to your rivals. Subordinates learn that they cannot bring you problems without also bringing potential solutions. This fosters a culture of initiative and self-reliance, making your entire organization more robust. Rivals learn that any attack on your past decisions will be immediately converted into a demand for their future strategy, exposing them to the same scrutiny they sought to place on you. You have not just won a conversation, you have established a new, permanent protocol for engagement. You have ceased to be a mere participant in the games of others and have become the lawgiver, the sovereign, who dictates the very terms by which power is negotiated in his presence. The old order is dead. The new state, founded on action and accountability, has risen in its place, and you are its unquestioned ruler. Any fool can burn down a village. It requires no talent, no vision, only a torch and a grievance. To build a village, however, to plan its walls, dig its wells, and govern its people, requires skill, foresight, and the courage to be held accountable for its future. This is the fundamental schism in the soul of man, the great and eternal divide between the critic and the creator. The vast majority of humanity belongs to the former category. They are spectators in the grand arena of life, and their greatest contribution is the noise they make from the stands. They boo the fallen gladiator and jeer the triumphant one with equal, effortless passion, because criticism is the safest and most gratifying of all human endeavors. It grants a sense of superiority without the burden of achievement. The critic lives in a pristine, imaginary world of perfect decisions, a world that has never been tested by the chaotic friction of reality. He is an expert on every war he has never fought. This is the man who stands before you, his face a mask of righteous concern, his words sharpened with the easy confidence of one who has never had to build what he now seeks to condemn. Your first instinct, the idealist's instinct, is to see him as an equal, a peer to be engaged with reason. But a prince must see beyond the mask. He must know the nature of the beast he faces. Is this a loyal subject pointing out a genuine flaw in the kingdom's defenses? Or is this a rival cloaking his ambition in the noble language of concern? Or, as is most often the case, is this simply a creature of noise, a man whose entire sense of self-worth is derived from the act of finding fault? To rule effectively, you must know the answer. And so, you hold up the mirror. What do you propose? This phrase is not a weapon of attack, but an instrument of profound revelation. It is a mirror that forces your interlocutor to gaze upon his own nature, and in doing so, reveals his soul to you. Observe what happens in the moments after you speak. The true critic, the man of noise, will falter. A brief, almost imperceptible panic will flash in his eyes. You have just changed the rules of a game he has played his entire life. He came prepared to dissect your creation, but you have demanded he become a creator himself. He is a demolitions expert suddenly tasked with architectural design. His mind, so adept at identifying flaws, now scrambles to assemble a coherent structure, and it will almost certainly fail. He will deflect. He will say, "That's not my job," or "I'm just pointing out the problem." In that instant, he has revealed himself. He is a subject, not a competitor. He has no plan for the throne because he has no capacity to govern. He is politically harmless, a mere distraction. You have identified him, classified him, and can now dismiss him, his power utterly neutralized. But what if he does not falter? What if, when you hold up the mirror, he meets your gaze and presents a plan? Now you have something far more interesting. You have separated a player from the crowd. You have discovered a man of substance. His proposal may be weak, an ill-conceived fantasy, in which case you have exposed his incompetence, or his proposal may be strong, well-reasoned, and strategic. In this case, you have identified either a formidable ally or a dangerous rival. In either event, you have gained invaluable intelligence. The mirror has done its work. It has forced the men around you to declare their nature, sorting the wheat from the chaff, the builders from the burners. This constant, methodical separation of men is only one half of the strategy. The other half concerns the image you are projecting, the play you are staging. Every interaction is a performance. Your office is not a workplace, it is a court. Your meetings are not discussions, they are audiences with the sovereign. And when you deploy our three-word phrase, you are not merely managing a conversation. You are performing the role of the unshakable leader, a figure of pure, forward-moving pragmatism. Consider the theater of it. The critic arrives, full of emotional energy, anger, frustration, anxiety. You absorb this energy not with a reciprocal emotional outburst, but with a cold, calm stillness. You let him exhaust his passion against the granite wall of your composure. Then, after a deliberate pause, a silence that amplifies the weight of your words, you deliver the line. What do you propose? This performance builds a reputation more powerful than any army. Men are governed by what they see, and what they will see in you is a leader who is immune to the petty dramas that consume lesser men. You are not interested in blame, in gossip, in the endless circular arguments about what went wrong. You are interested in one thing and one thing only, a viable path forward. This reputation becomes a silent guardian. People will learn to filter themselves before they even approach you. They will begin to internalize your standards. The complainers will cease to bother you, for they know their grievances will find no purchase. The ambitious will learn that the only way to gain your ear is to present a plan that demonstrates their value. You are not merely leading people, you are re-engineering their very thought processes. You are forging a new culture in your image, a culture of accountability, of solutions, of relentless momentum. This does not make you loved. Love is a fickle and unreliable foundation for power. Instead, it makes you respected. It makes you feared, not in the sense of a brute tyrant, but in the way a diligent student fears disappointing a master teacher. It is a fear of being found wanting, of appearing foolish or unprepared in the presence of unwavering purpose. And this fear, this deep, abiding respect, is the most stable and enduring form of control a prince can ever hope to achieve. You have learned to hold the mirror to the souls of men. You have seen how it separates the talkers from the doers, the subjects from the contenders. But a prince does not merely observe, he acts. The intelligence gathered from this strategic maneuver is worthless until it is weaponized. Now, before we unveil the final moves that secure your dominion, ensure you are subscribed to this counsel. The wisdom of the endgame is reserved for those who are prepared to execute it. The response your challenger provides, or his deafening silence, is not the end of the exchange. It is the beginning of his checkmate. You have forced him onto a new battlefield of your own design, and now you will dictate the terms of his surrender. His answer, whatever it may be, will lead him down one of three corridors, and at the end of each, your victory is already waiting. First, consider the most common outcome: the annihilation. He has no proposal. The critic, so bold in his condemnation, so eloquent in his assault, now stands before you utterly disarmed. His silence is his confession. It is an admission of his own intellectual bankruptcy. He has proven that his critique was not the product of a superior vision, but the impotent rage of a spectator. The idealist would feel pity or perhaps awkwardness in this moment. The prince feels only opportunity. You must not let this moment of his weakness pass without capitalizing on it. His failure has created a vacuum of authority, and you will now fill it with your own. You do not mock him. You do not say, "I told you so." You display a cold, almost disappointed magnanimity. You look at him and say, "Then let us proceed as I have already directed." In that single sentence, you have executed his public relevance. You have shown everyone in the room that while he was busy complaining, you were already busy planning. You have exposed him as a hollow drum, and in the silence that follows, the only sound is the forward march of your own agenda. You have not just won, you have nullified him. He ceases to be a factor. The second path is that of subjugation. This is a more subtle, more intellectually gratifying victory. Your opponent, when challenged, does not fall silent. He rises to the occasion and presents a proposal, but it is a weak one. It is ill-conceived, impractical, riddled with flaws. The amateur gloats. The master dissects. You will now transition from the role of the accused to that of the Grand Inquisitor. You will subject his flimsy idea to a merciless autopsy. You will ask clarifying questions that expose its contradictions. How do you propose we fund this? What will you sacrifice to acquire the resources? Have you considered how our rivals will react to this move? Each question is a scalpel, laying bare the shoddy workmanship of his thinking. You do this calmly, without anger, like a master artisan examining the flawed work of an apprentice. You are not attacking him, you are stress-testing his proposal for the good of the state. By the end of this process, his idea will lie in ruins, and he will have been its chief architect. You have forced him to destroy his own credibility with his own words. You have demonstrated, in a practical and undeniable way, your superior strategic mind. He is not just defeated, he is subjugated, his intellectual inferiority now a matter of public record. The third and most exquisitely Machiavellian path is that of appropriation. This is the masterstroke. Your challenger presents a proposal, and it is brilliant. It is insightful, efficient, and perhaps even better than your own original plan. The novice ruler feels a sting of jealousy. He sees a threat. The prince sees his next victory. A wise ruler, Machiavelli teaches, must be a generous bestower of praise on those who excel in any art. You will not crush this good idea. You will seize it. You will publicly praise the man for his ingenuity. You will champion his proposal with your authority. And then, you will make it your own. For an idea has no power until it is implemented, and implementation requires the will of the sovereign. You will become the patron of his success. You will task him with leading the initiative, but under your banner. The victory, when it comes, will belong to the state, and you are the state. His cleverness becomes a testament to your ability to foster talent. His success becomes another jewel in your crown. You have harnessed his ambition and yoked it to your own chariot. He has provided the engine, but you are the one driving, and you are the one who will be celebrated when you arrive at the destination. This is the ultimate form of control, not just defeating your enemies, but making their very strengths a source of your own power. Through these three maneuvers, you do more than win isolated arguments. You are laying the foundation for a new, permanent order. You are establishing a protocol. Through consistent application of this strategy, you train your entire environment. People learn. The ecosystem around you adapts. The culture shifts. The complainers are silenced. The incompetent are exposed, and the ambitious are co-opted. You are no longer the target of reactive criticism. You have become the prime mover, the central clearinghouse for all constructive action. This is the consolidation of your state. Your power is no longer something you must actively defend in every encounter. It becomes an ambient structural reality that shapes all encounters before they even begin. You have not merely won the game, you have become the board itself. And so we arrive at the final, immutable truth. Ultimate control does not lie in having the sharpest sword or the most eloquent defense. It lies in the power to define the nature of the conflict itself. The Supreme Prince does not win by giving the best answers. He reigns by asking the questions that force all other men to build his kingdom for him. The throne is not taken by force. It is constructed piece by piece from the answered proposals of allies and rivals alike.